Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or good day, because I don't know where it is, where everybody's watching the show. But welcome to another edition of Live from My Mother's Basement. I'm very happy to be here in the real basement where I grew up in New Jersey. And you can see this is an actual bar and it works. But I'm very excited to be here this afternoon because not only is this guy a genius doctor, a real professional doctor, but he likes to do comedy every once in a while, let's say on the side, is like a side job. So this is Dr. John Kelly. What's happening, my friend?
Well,
Nice
love
to
that.
see you.
Michael,
Thank
you're,
you so
you're
much.
my comedic mentor.
All right. John came all the way to New Jersey from Philadelphia.
Yes.
How long was the drive?
Hour and a half, including 2 tickets.
No, come on.
No, I got the about hour and a half. But you just gotta follow the flow. New Jersey Turnpike, follow the trucks. I'm cool.
Right.
I'm cool.
So it took you an hour and a half?
Hour and a half. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really not so bad.
That's not so bad.
All right, and we're catching this show in the middle of the afternoon
Yes.
and starting to do all these new pre-records because luckily for me and my producer Tatiana, we've been getting a lot of people calling in saying they'd like to be on the show. And since we were only doing it every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, it was very difficult to fit in so many different people that we wanted to have some fun with. So these pre-records are going to be really, really great.
A lot of fun.
And new, it's different, and it's just you and me. You're having your coffee. I got my bottle of water. We're going to talk, and we're going to let everybody know what you really do and how you got to do that because, I mean, let's be honest. Now, I'm going to have a lot of questions that I know you've been asked, like why would you want to cut open somebody's shoulder and look at that? How do you even do that? How do you have the stomach for that?
Yeah.
And then you turned it into comedy.
Yeah. Well.
And you presented it at night. So let's go back in the life of John Kelly. Now, where did it all start? Where you born?
Born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware, and most people say Delaware. It's got 3 counties, 2 at high tide, and I had an identical twin brother, Michael, who is even more talented than I am, who's going to be with the Lord. But my father was a comedian. There's a lot of genetics. This just doesn't happen. Even my wife will say to me, "Do you gotta be so outgoing?" I'm like, I can't help it. It's just who I am.
See, I didn't even know that. Now, your father was a real professional comedian?
My father was a professional, and he was, I would say, second tier because he worked right nearby. I was thinking about him driving up here for Chrysler Mopar, either in Rahway, one of those places. And he was a salesman for Chrysler. He auditioned for the Jack Parr show, made the audition, and his boss found out and said, "You ain't going on." So that was a career change for him. He could have really, he's extremely talented, the ultimate in timing. So he ended up doing the next logical thing, went into politics, and owned a bar in Delaware.
Right. So was he a professional comedian for a while, and then he stopped?
He did the Catskill thing. He did, some gigs in New York City, and then he settled down, had Mike and me and my sister Mary Ann, who's probably the funniest Kelly, honestly. So he had to get serious, had a real career, and he ended up being sheriff of Newcastle County, politician, and then he bought Kelly's. Well, he took over Kelly's Logan House, which is the longest continuously owned family bar in America. I'm John D. the Fourth, and I had a fifth before I came on. That's a joke. So John D. the First, in 1889, took over this bar in Wilmington, Delaware, called Kelly's Logan House. And to tell you how old it is, Michael, it was named after a general in the Civil War. Of course, we just redecorated it. We put all new drunks in. It looks really nice.
I don't know whether to take him seriously or not. His jokes are really killing me.
I don't write them.
But I'm pumped. So, but that's so interesting to me that your father was a comedian, because so many people ask me all the time, do you come from a family of comedians? And the answer is absolutely not. They were not in this business at all. I come from a regular family that's just Italian, and it was construction and food, and that's it. So nobody was doing what I was doing at all.
Well, it's funny because my grandfather was, what the word is, laconic. I mean, if he had 3 words on it, it was a big deal. My dad was like, and I'm just so much like him. I mean, he could just brighten up a funeral. And I honestly and truly, this is who God made me. And my wife is always saying, do you have to be so funny and outgoing? I'm like, I can't help it. And it really helps with medicine because, medicine is the healing arts.
Right.
Would you rather have a doctor with a personality? You walk in and say, Mr. Marino, I'm sorry, we're going to operate, and you have 2 months to live. We're like, hey, we got this.
Yeah.
We got
I hear
this.
you.
And
No,
by the way,
I wish there would be more doctors out there that had what we all used to call bedside manner, and they made you feel like
Yes.
everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, and for the
Might even
record-
told a joke or two,
for the audience, I got my license back last week, so they know.
just you could be a practicing physician again.
Yes, I got it back.
So let's say
They dropped the charges.
Delaware, then you went on to college. Where are you in college?
College, my brother, the twin, was a fantastic football player. So I got some looks because if he's his twin brother, he must be good. So we got recruited by all these schools, and one of them was Columbia University right down the road. So we played for Columbia, was just known as a perennial loser, but in our time, in the late 70s, we actually were decent. We had a wonderful coach named William Campbell,
Right.
who left coaching and became like this, who ran Silicon Valley. He was a fantastic life coach. And he got us tutors, we were poor, we had us jobs. We actually had Catholic Mass for every football game.
Right.
And he was grit personified. So I think, playing for Columbia in New York City really taught me a lot about toughness because I was born in the sheltered.
So when he was
Wilmington,
playing, you weren't playing?
No, Mike got me recruits, and then we both played at Columbia 4 years. And I had a serious knee injury, and I had actually aspirations to get a tryout. That was my ego, kicking in, because all I thought about was football and cheerleaders. And I realized after I tore my ACL, my junior year, I said, I got to make something of my life. So we had a wonderful team doctor named Robert Zickel, who was just known throughout New York as a maven in sports medicine. And he took good care of me. And I said to myself, I want to be that guy. And my GPA went from a 2.7 to a 3.9. So I thank God for the ACL tear. And then, knowing what ACL injuries are like, when someone comes in the office, they tear their ACL, I'm like, I know exactly how you're feeling now. Exactly. So everything worked out for the best.
What exactly is ACL stand for?
I'm sorry, that's the anterior cruciate ligament of the knee, which is the one most athletes tear. It could be a career ender in basketball and cutting sports, but now we have a way to fix it. In 1977, when I tore mine, there was really no good surgery for it. So I elected to go non-op, and it kind of ruined my not so great career anyway. But it turned me into Dr. Zickel, and I realized I had to do something in my life besides play football. And I started studying, and I wanted to be Bob Zickel. That's what I wanted to be.
Who's Bob Zickel?
Bob Zickel was a team doctor at Columbia, and he actually was an innovative surgeon. He became the chairman at Valhalla, Westchester Medical Center, but he invented a nail for fracture fixation. Very, very innovative guy, but most important of all, great bedside manner. He called me Kel. Hey, Kel, we got this. I was like, man, this guy's unbelievable. We had another team doctor who had the bedside manner of a block punt, I was like, he examined me, he goes, we got a level 3, and he'd book him, Dano. I'm like, hello, patient here, hello, And Zickel was like, Kel, you're pre-med. I said, yeah, well, let me help you out here. And then another team doctor gave me the keys to his office, so I had to work to pay for my bills, and I would study for the MCAT, the entrance test, after school was over, and I took a 5th year because my GPA wasn't very good, and I studied in the doctor's office. And I don't know if it was because the office was so quiet or the fact that he was a chain smoker, and I walk in there, I got a nicotine high. So I did good enough in the test. I got into several medical schools, and, that was my journey on the path to healing.
So, but where were you studying in college how to open up somebody? I thought it was shoulder surgery.
Shoulder surgery, yeah, that's my
and
passion.
knee, both of them?
I do arthroscopic, shoulder's my passion. So here's what happened. I get into medical school. I knew I wanted to be, well, let's rewind. Like most Irish Catholics, I had a very, very religious family. My mother went to Mass every day. My dad said the rosary every day. I thought about the priesthood. And then I saw these girls. I'm like, this ain't going to work. So what's the next best thing? In the healing ministry is medicine.
Right.
So I felt called to go to medicine. And then I get in the medical school, go through, and they said, time to pick a specialty. Well, I love sports. Mike and I, we wrestled track. I wrestled a little bit in college, track in college, and football. I said, I love sports. So orthopedics. Plus, I'm amphibious. Mike, I use both hands. Right?
Is it called amphibious?
Ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous.
It's a tough crowd, isn't it, folks?
It is.
Very tough. So Mike
Well,
has a
these
set of
people are
drums
actually
there.
listening, so they really want to know.
Yes. So
how you became a surgeon, because of course, so many people can't believe someone can take a knife to somebody else's body.
Well, let me tell you something. My wife's father was a mechanic. And those of you in the audience that are mechanics, artists, masons, carpenters, there is something absolutely magical about working with your hands. I just got a tour of Mike's house here. I don't know whether I should wipe my shoes or just bless this place, but it's unbelievably immaculate. And he's done construction. Like many good Italians are very good with their hands. So there's something magical about working with your hands. And you take that and you make someone better.
All right, but I'm working with my hands. I'm making my house look good. The house doesn't feel any pain. You're working with your hands. You're going to change somebody into a better person or heal them, but you still got to give them a needle that numbs them, that you cut them and you open it up.
Time out. They are asleep by the time I cut them, okay? So if I want to be in pain, I'd be a dentist.
How does that even happen? Like you're in college now and you're studying to be this particular type of a doctor, and then you see the first, is it a cadaver that's laying on the table, and they say,
Yes.
here's the scalpel, and give it
Well,
your best shot.
And then they give us rotations. You go in the OR, and I actually was kind of scared of blood. I was like, yeah. And then once you get over that fear factor, and someone hit me between the eyes. I was a fourth-year student. He said, "What do you think about?" I said, "I'm thinking about internal, I like cardiology, and then I like surgery." He goes, "Do you want to work with your hands and your mind, or just your mind?" I'm like, because in orthopedics we have to think a lot. People think we're just dumb, fracture, fix it.
I wouldn't think that at all.
A lot of thinking, a lot of mechanics. But I am a blessed guy because I got a wife to die for, twin daughters. But every day I get up in the morning and I say, who can I help today? And I just finished office hours, and I do a lot of rotator cuff surgery. And if you have a rotator cuff tear, and you and I are both, you're about mid-30s now, right? Like,
Yes, mid-30s.
Yeah, so I won't tell you my age, folks, but my social security number is 6. All right. So we get the age right now where a lot of rotator cuff tears. If you had a rotator cuff tear, I'm like, you can't sleep. The pain is terrible. And people come in and say, hey, doc, I can sleep now. I can raise my arm. I can do all these wonderful things. And I mean, you can't get a premium on that. That's where I get paid in the office when someone says, you got my life back. The money comes. My wife and I, we got low demand. We were both raised in a row house. I was so poor growing up, Mike, my parents couldn't afford to have me. The lady next door had to have me. So, we were born and raised in a row house. I got a garage now. I mean, it's like
got a house
life
house
is
now.
good.
So, when you go through college and you learn how to become this particular type of surgeon, and then you get your practice and your business, and now you're working in a hospital,
Yeah.
or a practice where people come see you.
Well, I'm a teacher. I work in a university setting, and
But you don't work at the hospital?
I work at the hospital. It's an academic center, and one of the greatest joys I have is teaching the next generation of surgeons. And I can happy to tell the audience, one of our twin daughters is now doing a residency in orthopedics, and women only comprise about 7% of orthopedic surgeons. So I'm really determined to change that number. And she's up there she has her mother's brain. She's at Dartmouth doing her residency, and I just get a lot of joy showing, how folks, Mike Marino was a comic mentor. He taught me a lot about how to do a show, and I'm nowhere near there yet. But I remember one time in the Club Casmo, I said, Mike, what do you do when the crowd doesn't laugh? He said, stick to your routine, keep smiling. And I do that. Like right now, when I'm bombing, I keep smiling.
Wow.
So, but
Tough
imagine
crowd.
teaching younger comedians everything you know.
Yeah.
And you're giving back. It's the vocation we love. So I give back to the vocation I love, orthopedics. So I have a young woman on my service now, great hands, and I just get great joy telling them what not to do, and also how the value of planning, and just learning and anatomy.
Well, let me get this out. I get in a car accident, my knee's all jacked up. 911 picks me up and take me to the hospital. You're working in that hospital that day. You're the guy who comes over to fix my leg. Is
Yeah.
that the way that works?
Yeah, we take call. I took 21 years of level 1 trauma, and of those years, my wife's just saying my hobbies were sleeping and breathing.
So you come over to the patient.
Yeah.
You're the doctor on call, let's say, at that
Yes,
time.
Yes.
And you do the x-rays and say, okay, here's what happened. This is what
Yes.
we got to do. This is the way we're going to fix you up.
Yes. And you're
Now, you've seen it so many times that you know pretty quickly okay, this guy's going to have a problem with the ACL.
Yeah. Well, this is the gray hairs coming in. You can look at an X-ray, you look at a patient, and it all has to. Everybody's different. There's no two cases. There's no cookbook, and you meet people where they are. How active are you? How much pain are you in? Have you tried this, this, and this? And everybody's different. And the word doctor actually means teacher. So I teach them what I know, and we have a shared decision-making process. So, given all this, and I will say, if you're, I said this today. I have a young man. I said, if you're my son, I would do this. I would recommend this. You can't force the hand. We're into service, not sales, Michael. Medicine
I
is
hope
a
so, because
service.
you got to understand there are a lot of places that upsell you.
Well, you can't.
I don't know about surgery, but even if you go to a dentist, you go, I got a little cavity. You need a whole mouth of teeth. And there's a lot of people up there who upsell the crap out of you, rob you. It's scary.
There's a great coach, basketball coach, John Wooden. He said the best pillow is a clear conscience. And I couldn't sleep doing that. The solemn responsibility I have to cut someone. If you do that when it's not that's assault. So, and I go back to the nuns. I told you and I always joke about how I got raised by the nuns. Sister Rocky Marciano, first grade, remember? And timeout was time you're out. Remember that? You
Yes.
talk about that?
Yes.
So we know right and wrong. And for me to operate on someone who doesn't need surgery, that is really wrong. And the temptations out there, our twins just got married last year, and I'm thinking, how many unnecessary surgeries I could do to pay for this? I mean, it's always out there.
Both the twins got married?
Both the twins got married. They have wonderful son. I have the two best son-in-laws ever walked the planet, and they both got their mother's looks and brains, thank God. But we took a hit, but we're paying it off. We'll get there. Thank God for my comedy job. It's paying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comedy is big money, man.
Big money.
There's
Yes.
no money
Yeah.
in surgery, but
No money in
comedy,
surgery.
forget it.
Big time.
You tell one good joke, boy, you're off to the hospitals.
I just did a big show at the Acme parking lot last week. 6 people show up. My 4 were relatives. It was a collection. So, no, but anyway, I'm a blessed guy. I love comedy because it helps me with the healing arts. And comedy, in the proper usage, can be very healing. You walk in and I love your North Jersey laugh. You don't say you got cancer.
Right.
It has to be appropriate, and I use it positive fashion, like you're so young. Or one of the lines I use all the time is if someone has their wife, I say, "Is this your oldest daughter?" Now sometimes you get in trouble with that. You got to read the room.
Right.
I had one guy it's probably his 8th wife, but I knew it was his wife, and he got very defensive. No, that's my wife. I'm like, okay, all right. I was like, Southwest Airlines, want to get away, But if you can say, you're so smart, you're so good looking, you're so athletic, strong, it can really help. And one of the things I do for someone who's really nervous, I'll walk in, I'll go, which leg we operating on?
Really?
Yeah, and it just cools the ice oh my gosh. Now you have to read the room. You got to make sure the patient's ready for that.
What if the patient's really not that, he doesn't have a sense of humor? I'd be like, hey, the doctor's drunk.
Yeah. I always quote that Progressive commercial, when the guy walks in and goes, "You nervous?" "Yeah, me too." "Oh, we'll figure it out." And that usually gets a laugh. It just let them know you're in their corner, you understand. And I tell people, I'd be nervous too if I was your doctor.
There are, I know my brother was calling you at one time because he had some problems with his knees.
Yes.
And there's a way to cure the knee or the shoulder without surgery, and that's filling it with some kind of gel that relieves the pain for a little while. What is that?
That's hyaluronic acid. That's made from rooster combs. So Paul's was he crowing for a while. And it works in some people. And the other thing about medicine, you have to be positive too. If you walk in there, the placebo is based upon what the patient thinks of the treatment, but also how the doctor feels about it. You never go in there and say, we're going to try this injection. It might work. I say, hey, look, I think this is going to really help you. It's what you believe in. You got to convey that. So I say, truth, temper with optimism. Ma'am, I think we're going to fix this cuff because I really believe in my heart it's going to eliminate your pain. You don't walk in we can try this. And you have to exude confidence. And if I'm not confident, I send it to someone else. Surgery is a self-fulfilled prophecy. You guys ought to see this guy on stage. He is so confident. I'm back there, saying 3 Hail Marys and, my Xanax drip,
That's what I'm saying about you guys.
No, and Michael's
I'm praying
in
you're
there,
going to do a good show.
I said, Michael's bang, boom. So, but that comes with the reps. My first surgery, Mike, I made coffee nervous. I was like, "Meh, meh, 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 meh."
I would be nervous. Did the patient know it was your first surgery?
Well, I don't think so.
That's a good
We
question.
just
Does
settled,
it,
we just settled the suit, so we're good.
does a patient know how many surgeries a doctor has performed, especially that particular one that they'd be doing? Did you actually say, "Hey, listen, hi, how are you?
No, I don't.
Today's my first day, and don't worry, I know what to do. In fact, I read this book."
Well, like I'm going to use your word. Mike does the best female voice. Like, and these people come in and say, "Hi there, doctor. How many times have you done this surgery?" They're very the consumers now are very informed. They go online, they check your ratings. They can even find out like how many times you've been sued. I work in Philadelphia, man. Folks, because we get sued like BID. It means twice a day. But that's just the culture in Philadelphia. But doctor, how many times have you done this procedure this month? I'm like, I gotta tell them the truth. I just saw one with a guy with a hamstring tear. I do those surgeries, but they're rare. And if you see a guy doing a lot of hamstring repairs, they're probably a little bit on the shyster side. So I said, well, I do this, maybe once every few months when it's indicated. So, but today's consumer is so much more informed. When we were kids, went to the doctor. The guy could have been, just out of jail. Who knows? But you're the doctor. Now it's like, well, so and so says that I went down the street and he says I don't need surgery. I'm like, okay,
That's
all
some
right.
creepy thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question, okay? We have a relative in our family that has a thing called brittle bone.
Yeah.
She's constantly getting surgery. She could just, I don't know, step some way the wrong way and she breaks a bone.
Yeah.
Had it her whole life.
Oh.
Hospital after hospital, surgery after surgery. And then if it starts to look like the surgeons are screwing her up.
Yeah.
But it's not just a shoulder or a knee. It could be a hip, a rib. I mean, that's not something you work on, is it?
No, but those are the people, Mike. I see these saints, like your relative every day. That's a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, where the matrix of the bone is defective. And I see these kids when I was in training. They just have these rods when they're age 6 in their tibia, and just when you think my job keeps me so humble because my back hurts. I'm in my 60s now, and I'm like the human cramp in the morning. I need a can of 3-1-0 just to walk. Right? You told me one of your favorite lines is, you sneze, blood your calf. That's how I feel. And so do you poop? That's like a big thing in our age. And my prostate is the size of Scotch planes. I pee in Morse code. I can go on forever. But these people, they're saints. And I say to myself, I'm not going to complain again. A little kid had 3 plates put in and expanding rods. So that disease, osteogenesis imperfecta, is really a difficult cross to carry. But here's the funny thing: I've had patients with that. Some of the most happy patients I have. I got a young lady, I saw a few months back. She needed a serious knee surgery. She's like, "I'm cool, doc. I'm cool." I'm like, man, you're unbelievable.
Yeah, well, it's a different life, and you just described the way she is. She's happy all the time. I'm sure she would prefer not to be in that situation, but she's coming to the shows, and I see her all the time, and we try to make her laugh and smile, and you be careful about it. But I mean, I think she's spent more time in a hospital than Evel Knievel. It's
Well,
unbelievable.
I got to stop here and tell the audience. You and I did a show years ago for that young woman who needed money for the chairlift.
The bus.
The
It was a
special-
van. They wanted to raise enough money to get a van that would have a chairlift.
And
Yeah.
Michael crushed it. She was blind, deaf, and disabled. And I said, boy, you know what? I felt so blessed. And I said, it doesn't get any better than this. Here I am having fun, making at least a few people, at least my wife and daughter were there, they laughed, and raising money for the kind of heart this guy has. And I will never,
That
ever.
was a sad one
Union,
because the girl was there.
The Union Elks Club.
Yeah, and we met the girl. She came. The mother brought the daughter, a son, a daughter, and the little daughter, the girl that was in the wheelchair. And it's like, wow, what a life changer to have a kid like this.
my
It's funny. All these years later, I'm still in touch with that woman, and we do talk from time to time. That kid's a teenager and has the car. I don't think she drives the car, but she did start to get more vision, I believe.
Yeah, well,
She still can't drive, but they're happy.
She was great disposition. The mother was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about
How do you do that?
positive. So,
And the husband left that family for those reasons. Could you imagine that burden?
boy, just tell me where he lives. I'll make a house call.
Yes. Don't you feel like saying, "Hey, pal, come have a conversation"?
I think, Mike, you give me your North Italian.
Wow.
As you would say, like, let's discuss it. We'll talk
Yeah,
about
it's
it.
oof. How do you start again?
How do you start? Well, they're heroes. Another hero, that woman that I saw, the child, and
That's right.
And Michael, when you ask me to do something, he works for the USO, the troops, any charity. He did a big favor for me years ago. We had an orthopedic convention. Absolutely, they're still talking about it, except for the balloons. Remember the balloons?
Right.
Those balloons are like out of nowhere. Like, this guy's one of the best comedians ever, and the balloons, you can't even tell a joke because there's balloons coming out left and right.
That was one of the greatest parties. I tell you, I really, really enjoyed that. Met your family, met
My
your
brother
sister.
was still with us.
Your sister was all talking about her relationship or your relationship with Dr. Oz.
Well, he's a good egg, and we were high school together, and he was quite a football player.
You went to high school? I thought it was college.
High school with him.
High school with Dr. Oz.
The doctor's in. He was a first-team All-State defensive tackle, and he and my sister were around the same age. I was a little older than him. And let me tell you about Dr. Oz. This is not a promo. I got no skin in the game, but I can tell you, I know him as a person. He's a good egg. And whenever something in the family goes down, when my brother, God rest his soul, had cancer, he got him hooked up to Sloan Kettering like in an instant. When my sister's son had a congenital heart defect, he took a whole day off of work and scoured the whole Columbia PNS pediatric cardiology division. Like, who does that? Who does that?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So anyway, okay, so now this is your life, and this is where you're making your money. This is where you raised your kids. How did you step out into stand-up?
It started in medical school, really, because,
I mean, when you were in medical school, were you going out at night cracking jokes in comedy clubs?
No. Well, everyone, I worship my father. He was a Marine Corps boxer. He was a drill instructor, Paris Island, World War II. This guy was a bad dude, and he was my hero. And he made Mike and me box since we were age 2. So talk about conflicted childhood. But he was my hero because I'd see him walk in these rooms and tell these jokes and make people happy. I said, I want to be that guy.
Right.
So in medical school, when a teacher was late for class, I get up there and I grab the microphone and I start doing impressions
Right.
of the teacher. Now that worked for a while until the teacher come in.
Found out.
Yeah, that's one guy. He was a pathology professor. His job was dead. Get it? Pathology professor. So he talked like this. So I said, all right, ladies and gentlemen, way to take a good test is sit next to somebody smart, okay? And I'm saying all these lines. I'm doing an impression. He walks in. He goes, oh my gosh, I'm dead. I'll never get my residency now. And he grabs the microphone and he starts laughing. Shakespeare said, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So I started doing that, and I figured, okay, I'll do it again. So I started doing it. And then my dad had the bar, and I graduated from med school, and I started working summers at his bar. And then when I did his stand-up at his bar, I said, I can do this, because when you work for a family business, there's a negative bias against, like, I would get this, shut up, you ain't funny, I don't care if your dad owns a bar, sit down, you idiot, go back to medical school. So I kind of, before you told me, I just smiled, I stick to the script, and I had my big brother there to back me up, who was even funnier than me. And so I figured if I can handle the Logan House crowd. And then...
Logan House? That was the name of the bar?
Name of the bar. So
the Logan House crowd.
So then that morphed to medical gigs. And then when I turned 50 years old, I went through a little midlife crisis. I said, I got to start doing more clubs. That's where I met Michael at the Club Casbah in Wildwood.
All right, so you got to rewind just a little bit, let everybody know. There is one of the most famous comedy clubs in the state of New Jersey.
Absolutely.
Was the Casbah Comedy Club in Wildwood, New Jersey. One of the only clubs to be opened only for 4 months. But at that time, in the heyday of comedy on the Jersey Shore, way down south, the club was thriving. And every night of the week, the place was packed with people who were down there on vacations from all around the United States, because people from Canada always went down to Wildwood. And then you had the tri-state area down to Wildwood and Philadelphia.
And that's why I got to meet this guy, because I was just an open act, but I got to meet Michael, Joe DeVito, Jim Florentine, all these wonderful, Don Marrera. They had big names in Wildwood, New Jersey. And then...
and we got to stay at this place, too. And you stayed in this little bungalow, which was like a sugar shack on the top roof of one of the scariest places. But, I mean, the summer nights. Come on, we're talking pizza, ice cream, cheesesteaks. You were across the street from the ocean, the seagulls, one of the biggest beaches in the world. You had to take a cab to get all the way down to the ocean, and that's where we would find stand-up jokes. All you had to do was just walk around and take a look. They had the tram car. The tram car would go up and down the boardwalk, and they would blast the horn saying, "Watch the tram car, watch the tram car." Or they would run you right over because they didn't speak English. It was out of control and just fun. I miss it. I miss it so much. And what this guy, Mark the Don Vito, they called him the Don, he would actually come out on stage dressed in a robe. You remember he would come out and go like this, "Welcome to the Casbah Comedy Club, Casino, and Spa."
And he gave me a stage name, The Love Doctor. The Love Doctor's on call tonight. And he always, ready for this, the end of the show, he had a collection for a special charity. It was very positive. You know, he was a good-hearted guy. And he was a mentor, as this guy is to me, to many, many comedians over the years. And we all remember Mark and toast his name, Mark Vito.
Mark Vito, and I hope he's doing great wherever he is in this world. It was so sad to see that place go. It really was. When he called up and he said, "It's over, I'm retiring," we're like, where are we going to perform?
I know.
And one of the greatest things, too, was we would perform in Atlantic City for a week and then drop by the Casbah for the second week. So you were doing great financially because they're kind of close to each other, but not close enough to be a conflict. You just took me back. I need a snow cone.
yeah, the boardwalk was fantastic.
I have to say this, though. One of the coolest green rooms you've ever sat in. He had his little antiques. He had this stereo that played music from a cassette that hadn't changed since the 1960s. And you couldn't touch it.
And he was a great mentor to me. He would give me feedback. He'd say, "Hey, Love Doctor, I need 8 minutes. Can you do it?" So one year, I know it was open for Michael or Joe DeVito. And I get out there, and, you know, when the crowd's going, I happen to have a lot of friends, and, you know, I was kind of, so I go a little over. I get like 10 minutes, right? But everybody's laughing. I get back, and the first thing he does, he goes, "What the hell did I tell you? I said 8 minutes. What the hell are we doing up there?" I'm like, "Hey, Don, come on. I thought I was doing good, man." You know, and then one time I showed up in shorts. He goes, "Never ever, Doc, do shorts on a guest spot. You all right? Yeah." So these are things that coachable. I was like 52 years old, getting all these coachable like points from the Don. It was great. It was great.
Isn't that funny? I really wish he was around us and we were down there right now just to hear those critiques.
Oh my God.
Because I remember there were some people that would go on stage in shorts, and okay, we're on the Jersey Shore, it's hot out, and most people in the showroom were in shorts.
Yeah.
But you're a performer. You're supposed to be on stage
he taught
looking
me,
good.
And he also said, never go to the men's room before you go on, because in case you dribble, you have a stain. These are important things, folks, especially the prostate thing. So my kids said, "What kind of underwear do you wear?" And I said, "Well, it depends. Depends."
That was so great.
And I never forget your kindness, Mike. Mike was always patient with me backstage. He'd give me feedback, and I'd say, "How am I doing?" He goes, "Go back to surgery.
Yes,
Okay.
stick to your job.
Stick to your job."
But now you also went on stage dressed like a doctor. He would go. He actually brought his lab coat.
Yeah.
You don't have to put it on. It's too hot down here. But what was that? Your gimmick? How did you come to be to say, "Hey, listen, I really am a doctor"? Because I have seen you perform without it.
Yeah, well, it was just a little gimmick, you know, a little shtick, and it just makes you a little different. And you know, I come out with the rectal thermometer. Remember, I'd say I can't find my pen, and I can find his rectal thermometer, and so it means some a-hole has my pen right now. That was my opening line. So, but it was a little gimmick, making me a little different, because I'm never going to compete with this guy, so I had to have a little shtick, say I'm different, and that's what it was. And I just love it. There's nothing like making people happy, you know.
Yeah.
If God put you on this earth to help the planet, and, you know, and especially with the COVID thing, Michael, and all the economic woes, I never forget. I got to share a story. I was doing the Casbah one day, and one of my patients, her husband was a twin, and he died of cancer, like my brother. And only I can understand the anguish of losing a twin. You know, his twin brother died of cancer. That's some genetic thing. So she said, "Are you in town?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Why don't you come to the Casbah? I'm going to do a little shtick with opening for Mike Marino." I did a, you know, B+, but I never forget the text. She said, "John, thank you. You made me feel so much better." I'm like, wow, this comedy stuff works. And when you go on a show with Michael, he's not one of these people that's just filthy. He makes you feel better about yourself. It's like this positive energy. The comedy does help. It heals.
You know what's funny is lately, well, not lately, a lot of the times, I get a lot of great fan mail, and what the people say about how I made them feel
Yes.
blows me away. I'm like, really?
Yes.
You really
Yes.
feel inspired because
Yes.
of what I said?
Yes.
You
Yes.
look at things differently because of what I said? It's pretty whacked. When I the other day, a new bit went out on the internet, and a lot of people were saying, "Go, baby, go! This guy's great. I love him. I could watch him every day." And then one person said, "I would never wear that kind of shirt," and that's all I saw. 1,000 compliments, and all I
Yes.
saw
Yes.
was
Yes.
the
Yes.
one guy saying something about my shirt, and I wanted to go, "What do you mean you don't like the shirt? Who cares about the shirt? Did you like the joke?" And it drives you crazy.
Well, you know that, but see, that's your blessing and a curse. We were talking about how drummers or comedians, but to be a good comedian, you had to be hypersensitive. You have to know how to read the room, and we take all that negative. I could be doing a show again a B plus. This guy's an A plus, and there's that one person that's not looking like this. That's the person I look at, and it's just you have to just keep staying ahead and like move forward. But Michael's comedy is very creative. You know, my wife is a saint, and I've done shows. I stopped doing a lot of clubs because there's just filth. They just got an F this, F that. That's not creative. This guy has a great, Italian set, and it's very creative. There's a lot of ingenious, the way he works being Italian. Instead of going out there and F this, F, like, come on, man.
Yeah.
And I was
Doesn't
ready.
really propel your career.
You and I worked at a club once that was like, remember it was rough place. It was in, I'm not going to tell you the name, but the hat check girl's name was Dominic. Remember how rough it was? Remember?
Right.
And I was embarrassed. My wife was like, let's get out of here.
Yeah. Sometimes the places could be nasty. Sometimes, like this weekend, I really wish you were coming to the
Surflight
Surflight.
next year.
I don't know when this episode's going to air, but I'll be at the Surflight Theater on August 7th, and I play there every summer. It's one of the oldest theaters in the state of New Jersey. It's down in Long Beach Island, and I remember you came down and you played it with me and John Bramnick. It was just the three of us. It would have been the three of us again Sunday. So it's me and him. We were waiting for
Is
you.
it Sunday or Saturday?
Sunday night.
Wait a second. I may be able to make that. Maybe. Yeah, we'll do it. Stay tuned. I'm sorry. Maybe it's too late.
He
but
just said it on camera.
Because I get in a flight from Chicago. Let me check with my agent, Mrs. Kelly. Okay. But never,
You with the Kelly Agency?
we were backstage, and Michael did a little shoot. He goes, "I'm backstage with Dr. John Kelly
Oh, yeah.
and lawyer John Bramnick."
If there's an accident, I got a lawyer and a doctor.
Well, John got me off a couple DUIs. He's really good.
He's the best.
He's
a
really-
great guy.
he's
We're
a
talking
good
about
dude.
a guy who is a state assemblyman now.
Yeah, very principled too.
Yeah,
Very principled.
good
I'd
guy.
vote for him in a
Great
second.
comedian. Very, very funny.
Oh yeah.
So where are you going to be performing around now? What are you doing?
I do mostly medical gigs. I am doing a little shtick in Nashville coming up in September, and every time there's a convention, I try to, they look for me. I just did a little mini show last week in Phoenix. It was a medical graduation, and I did like 15 minutes of comedy and then like 30 minutes of wellness. So my daughter and I actually want to tell you, comedy and healing. I'm interested in physician wellness because burnout. About 50% of doctors are burned out. So my daughter and I wrote a book on the resilient physician, and we use comedy as a healing means. When you're telling jokes and you're laughing, you're in the moment. All that lawsuits and the drain. When you're a surgeon, you take patients home with you. The draining wound, the fever. I got about 4 people right now on the prayer list, right? So, but when you're telling jokes and you're totally immersed in the moment, and all this stuff goes away. That's why I'm so happy to come up here and have this little reprieve from my mundane, not my mundane, but my stressful life. And
It's funny that you should say it that way because I agree with you. As the entertainer, it does play on your head because there are some days where kind of like I like my career, I like my life, but shouldn't I have been more famous by now? Shouldn't I have a TV series by now?
well, yes.
If I was bigger, I would like to do more stuff. But then again, I could be bigger and want even more. I'm always going to want more. This is what I've dedicated my life to doing. So I'm always going to want more. There was a time where I did have a stomach problem and I went to go see a surgeon and they saved my life. To make a long story short, he said to me, "Where are you going to find the comedy in this tragic thing that happened to you?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'm performing at the Count Basie in Red Bank. Here's some tickets. Come see." And all I talked about was when I was in the hospital and they wouldn't let me go home unless I passed gas. And I just thought that was the funniest thing I've ever heard. And then he said, because I had colon resection. And he said, we know that the operation was a success when the air goes through. So I kept saying, so if I fought, I could walk out of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And they were just cracking up laughing. So I think for the 7 days that I was in this hospital, they were all having more fun because I was there cracking them up all day long.
Gosh, well, the GI doctors are special, and they deal with gas and stool. In fact, I listened to doctor radio. We have a new breakthrough in the treatment of constipation. Like, and that's the biggest breakthrough. I mean, can you imagine being an expert in constipation? Well, I mean, God bless them. God bless them.
I wrote a joke recently, and I'm going to try it out this weekend. I wanted this. My uncle Tommy, who was an older guy, and I'm doing this as a brand new type of a character, and he's a cross between Lieutenant Columbo and Archie Bunker. And I said, I remember a long time ago, he said to me, yeah, I'm constipated. When you get older, you'll get constipated, but you can't force it out, because if you force it out, you give yourself some hemorrhoids. I got hemorrhoids look like 3 fingers, and I just like, how could you not laugh at what he just said? And you don't even think it's that funny because you're a kid. Then you get into your 50s and go, holy shit, he's right.
Oh, my gosh. And then you get the other thing, the prostate thing, which is the other effect. I can't pass a men's room. And the last thing I said to Michael before we went, Mike, where's your bathroom? Okay.
What exactly is that? You said your prostate is the size of the town.
Yeah, Scotch Plains.
So that means the prostate's big. You have to go to the bathroom more often?
Well, it's actually medical. I'm not a urologist. But it gets bigger and actually starts to strangle what we call the urethra.
Oh.
So it's hard to empty your bladder. So I heard Billy Crystal say, I pee in Morse code. Deet, 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 deet. So I take something called Flomax, and it's maxed out. So I'm just lucky I miss my sneakers when I pee. So I'm just happy about that. Okay,
That's hilarious.
I'm getting there. But the ravages of age. But again, people like your cousin keep me humble. Like, hey, man. Yeah, and I saw my brother go through the whole thing with cancer. I'm cool, man. I am blessed.
I'm really sorry about your brother.
Oh,
what exactly happened to your brother?
He had gallstones, and he never really got it treated in time, and he developed cancer. And he was a hero. I mean, he went through about five surgeries, about 4 rounds of chemotherapy. He's my hero. He was tough as nuts. He was a great football player for Columbia, and he would say, "Bring it on." And he was a man of faith, and the good Lord took him last January, and there's not a single day I don't think about him. We're identical twins.
Identical twins.
I told you he was very handsome.
I remember. I remember meeting
Very
him.
handsome, and he was he could, and he had so much passion. And he had a big law firm here in New Jersey, and he was always defending the poor and the unjust, the downtrodden. Very big civil rights guy. He was just my hero. And
Does he have a wife and children?
His wife is a saint, Deanna, and his son Patrick is my nephew, who's a fantastic athlete. And his daughter Joanna is now taking up the trade. She's works in the public defender's office in Philadelphia, and she's on fire. She's an incredibly gifted trial lawyer. She could get you off of anything. And I'll tell you how good she is. I broke a mirror, supposed to get 7 years. Bad luck. She got it down to 4. That's how good she is.
Wow. All right. Well, hey, we got to see you on stage somewhere, somehow, and tell us what we can look forward to see what's happening in your life in the future after this podcast down at my mother's basement. What do you got going on?
So I got the little just private shticks, mostly medical gigs coming up. And I like to promote the book that Anne Marie and I wrote. It's called The Resilient Physician, and has principles on stress management that everyone could use, going from mindfulness, exercise, diet, sleep, all the things we all struggle with, to have some semblance of balance, including fun, not just the absence of stress, but having fun, and for me it's comedy. And
The Resilient Physician with daughter Anne Marie Kelly, MD.
MD.
So you wrote the book together?
Wrote the book together.
Where do we get this book?
You can get it, I believe, on Amazon. I think it's Walter's Kluwer. I'm embarrassed about the publisher, but I'll be doing some other medical shticks I can let the public know when I do those. Most of them are more for medical audiences, but and I always love working with this guy here.
Well, where do we find you on the internet?
I gave your agent my website, Twitter account.
You forgot it?
Well, I wrote the Twitter.
It's all right. We got it here on the paper.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
got it on
No,
the
it's
paper.
not my agent. She's the producer of the show,
Producer,
Live
excuse
from My
me.
Mother's Basement,
Excuse me.
Tatiana Bluchel.
Who's very talented.
She's phenomenal.
Anyone who can get me up here on time is talented.
He got him on time.
Got him on time. I got the COVID test. I flunked the drug screen, Mike, but I got the COVID test. That was okay.
I got every test.
I got every test.
I even got the shingles.
I got chirpies, but it's treatable.
We can find him on Facebook.com/John D. Kelly IV. What's IV?
That's what I use after a hangover.
IV. And Instagram, John D. AK4.
John David Aloysius Kelly the Fourth.
Aloysius?
Aloysius.
Really?
My confirmation name. Yeah, spell it. Try to spell it. Get brownie points.
We can find him on Facebook.com/John D. Kelly IV or Instagram/John DAK4. You should look at his book, ladies and gentlemen. It'll probably make you feel good that he wrote with his daughter, who happens to be a twin like he is a twin.
Yeah, twin
The Resilient
brothers.
Physician with daughter Anne Marie Kelly, medical
MD.
MD. We're going to get going. You got any kind of jokes you want to talk about real quick before we get out of here? Do a little routine.
Oh, I love to do a routine,
Do a
but
little-
you know,
little stand-up
I'm
routine.
getting a little older here, Mike. I was telling Mike about my age now. You know, my favorite drink now is Metamucil, and my morning after pill is Motrin. And you know, my six-pack just became a keg, and you know, my thumbs, they got so much arthritis. I need a caddy to go to the men's room right now. So my wife said to me, goes, "Why don't you start working on some jigsaw puzzles? You lose memory." I said, "Okay, I have Alzheimer's, halfway to Alzheimer's." So I worked on a jigsaw puzzle, and I finished this thing in 3 weeks. She said, "What's going on?" I said, "I just finished this jigsaw puzzle in 3 weeks." She says, "What's the big deal?" I said, "Well, the box here says 2 to 4 years."
Oh.
True story. True story. So I want to tell the audience he's old school. He's a friend for the ages. He's always there when I ask him to do things, and he's got a heart bigger than in Mike Marino's basement. That's what I'll tell you. You don't make him like him anymore.
Well, let's all stay in touch, and we look forward to seeing everybody again on the next episode of Live from My Mother's Basement. Remember, let's make America Italian again. The motto is, you don't know nothing, you don't see nothing, you don't say nothing. And how do I end every single one of my broadcasts? By always saying the same thing. Do you know? Do you know what I say? Don't take no shit from nobody. You ready? Don't take no shit from nobody. Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying watching my podcast Live from My Mother's Basement. We're having a lot of fun, and I'm going to have a lot of great guests on the show in the future. So if you like it, hit like. You could also leave a comment. You could subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch other funny videos. And you could also listen to my podcast on your favorite podcast app like Spotify and iTunes.